Virginia U.S. Senator Mark Warner is the vice chairman of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence. Senator Warner spoke at a bipartisan event hosted by the Washington Kurdish Institute. Warner called on the Senate to take up and pass the Syrian Allies Protection Act. The legislation would make U.S. visas available to Kurdish Syrians who work directly with U.S. armed forces and whose lives may now be in danger after Trump abruptly withdrew U.S. troops from northern Syria, abandoning our Kurdish allies, and opening the way for a Turkish military onslaught on the Kurdish fighters, who were integral partners in America's fight against ISIS. Since the Turkish onslaught began last month, there have been reports of executions and human rights abuses against civilians and Kurdish fighters. In his remarks, Warner held Trump responsible for the abandonment of our vulnerable allies and the current situation that they are in.
It's now a month and a half since the President of the United States, in one phone call, undermined our Kurdish allies, completely caught the American military, the American intelligence community, totally off guard, and threw the region into chaos. As a result of that telephone conversation, men and women of the SDF and other Kurdish allies who literally, up until that phone call, in many cases were standing with American military, are now subject to being killed, murdered.
Warner continued to call out the Trump administration.
I also think the president's decision to abandon the Kurds will be a disaster for American foreign policy for decades. How do we go back to allies or potential allies in a very troubled region and say, if you align with us and promote democratic values and promote human rights and stand with us, we will stand with you? One with no warning, in what appeared to be almost a whim, a complete reversal of American policy took place.
According to a report from the Defense Department released Tuesday, ISIS has been able to reconstitute capabilities and resources within Syria and strengthen its ability to plan attacks due to the Turkish incursion into northern Syria and the U.S. troop drawdown. The report goes on to say ISIS will probably regain control of some Syrian population centers and expand its global footprint because of Trump's decision combined with the Turkish incursion and onslaught. Like the congressionally directed programs that made select Iraqi and Afghan nationals who worked as interpreters or in other vital military positions eligible for special immigrant visas, the Syrian Allies Protection Act would protect those Kurds in Syria who worked most closely with the United States, usually as translators, and whose lives are now threatened not only by the ongoing Turkish incursion, but by potential retaliation by freed ISIS fighters, regime forces, and other foreign interests in Syria now that the protection of American forces has been removed.
Iran, Erdogan, Assad, Vladimir Putin, ISIS, these are not allies of the United States or the Kurdish people.
In the Breaking Through Newsroom, Theodore Whitelow, Breaking Through News.